Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're looking beyond just, speed limits and traffic signals. We're really pulling back the curtain on something potentially more impactful for public safety: political accountability, or maybe the lack of it. Our focus today is on some very direct statements from Prime Minister Mark Phillips. These were made recently at the launch of Road Safety Month 2025. So our mission, we want to unpack what he said. What are the real roadblocks making our roads so dangerous? How does this idea of influence actually undermine police work? And what does the hard data tell us about how we behave on the roads? I think for me, the thing that jumps out right away is how personal the Prime Minister is making this. He's calling out influential people, officials, friends, even family, telling them point blank to stop meddling with traffic police. That feels like more than just policy, doesn't it? It feels like a cultural challenge.
Oh, absolutely. And it's a necessary one. Considering the scale of the problem we're looking at, the source material makes it clear these statements aren't happening in a vacuum. They're set against some truly staggering statistics. We're talking hundreds and hundreds of lives lost just in the last few years. So without that firm tone, that zero tolerance starting right at the top, police efforts can feel, well, almost futile sometimes. This whole culture of who you know really needs to start if we're serious about saving lives.
Okay, let's dig into that specific culture then, the interference. Phillips singled it out as a key obstacle. He was crystal clear to officials, people with influence: don't call me, let the police do their job. He's saying that when powerful people lean on officers to let traffic offenders go, it's not just about one person getting away with something, it actually damages the whole system of road discipline. What's the sort of institutional fallout there?
Well, the institutional damage is, it's catastrophic, really. Traffic enforcement, particularly for serious things like drunk driving or, reckless speeding, it relies almost entirely on deterrence. If drivers get the idea that a quick phone call can make a violation disappear, then poof, there goes the deterrence. The law becomes sort of optional, right? Only for people who don't have the right connections. So what Phillips is doing, by refusing to even take those calls, is essentially providing institutional backup for the officer on the street. It gives them cover.
That protection for the officers, that seems vital. And he shared a very personal story to really hammer this home, didn't he? Describing how friends, relatives, they actually call him, looking for him to step in after they get pulled over. And he says no, every time.
Yeah, and what really stands out in that anecdote is the part about the younger family member, the one who tried to hand the phone over to the police officer right there on the spot. I mean, that's the exact moment the system often breaks, isn't it? The officer feels pressured, maybe intimidated, and discipline just evaporates. But Phillips stepped in. Not for his relative, though, which is key. He stepped in for the officer. He actually recounted telling the policeman something like, "I told him, don't be intimidated. Handle the matter as you think best."
That is powerful. It completely flips the usual power dynamic. The PM is effectively saying, my officer's judgment matters more than my family's connections.
Precisely. And if you look at the bigger picture, Phillips argues that when leaders at the COP firmly refuse to interfere like that, it sends the right signal and strengthens road discipline. This isn't just talk, It actually changes the calculation for every other official down the line. If the head of government won't intervene, it sets a really strong precedent. It helps protect the police force's integrity from the top all the way down. It reinforces that the law applies to everyone.
And he sums up his personal stance very simply. People know how I operate. Don't call me for that. If you break the law, face the consequence. It feels like a really crucial first step maybe in rebuilding trust that enforcement is actually impartial. But okay, this tough stance on enforcement, it only really exists because the problem is so urgent, right? Which brings us neatly into our second segment, the deadly data. Phillips stressed that every single violation has to be taken seriously, because ignoring the small stuff, as he put it, lay the foundation for bigger tragedies. And this is where the numbers just become impossible to ignore.
They really are. The statistics that came out at the launch, they cover 2020 right through to the end of 2024. And in that 5-year period, we saw 574 fatal accidents recorded. Now, that translated into 642 deaths, and that includes 24 children. Just pause on that for a second. It really highlights the sheer scale of the enforcement challenge, or maybe failure.
And looking inside those 5 years, it wasn't just a steady flat line of accidents, was it? There were these really concerning spikes. Can you walk us through the yearly numbers and what they might suggest?
Sure. So if you look at 2021 and 2022, the fatal accidents were hovering around the low 90s mark each year. Still terrible, but relatively stable. Then in 2023, the figures just shot up dramatically. We jumped to 148 fatal accidents, and those resulted in 175 deaths. That's nearly a 60% increase in fatalities compared to the year before.
Wow, a 60% jump. That's huge. That doesn't sound like just random variation. It suggests something changed systemically, maybe, either in driver behavior or the driving environment itself. Did the sources give any clues about what might have driven that massive spike in 2023?
The source material doesn't pinpoint one single cause definitively. But that sudden jump really demands some thought, doesn't it? You could speculate, maybe connect it to the broader context many places saw after the pandemic. 2023 was often the year things really opened back up. Social activities, late nights, maybe more drinking and driving. Perhaps people returned to the roads with even greater recklessness after being restricted. It's possible that spike was a tragic combination of more traffic and maybe riskier behavior coming back strong.
Okay, so if 2023 was maybe peak recklessness, and 2024 came down slightly, 117 fatal accidents, 132 deaths. The problem is still clearly persistent and lethal.
Yeah.
And it seems directly linked to the choices drivers are making.
Absolutely. And the data goes deeper. It doesn't just tell us how many people died. It starts to tell us when and perhaps how they died. And that points directly to the specific behaviors that, well, enforcement needs to target.
Right. We actually know when the risk is highest. The data showed pretty clearly that the worst time for these fatal accidents is in the evening, specifically between 6 p.m. and midnight. And, maybe less surprising, but still very specific, the worst day of the week is Sunday.
Yeah, that specific window, Sunday evening, 6 p.m. to midnight, it seems like a perfect storm of risk factors coming together. You often have people driving after weekend socializing, which could mean impairment from alcohol, plus fatigue setting in before the work week, and then just the simple factor of poor visibility, especially if road lighting isn't great.
So if we know that's the danger zone, the public really has a clear responsibility to adapt, don't they?
Yeah.
What specific changes did the Prime Minister urge people to make based on this data?
He was very direct about it. Knowing Sunday evening is particularly dangerous, he called for really conscious choices. Things like deliberately slowing down late at night, making a plan before you go out for a designated driver if you're returning from, say, a social event, and crucially, making an absolute commitment to avoid alcohol if you're the one driving. He put it very simply. Alcohol and driving don't go hand in hand. And he really emphasized the weight of responsibility on drivers. It's not just about protecting yourself. He stressed you are responsible not only for your own life, but the lives of others sharing the road. That shifts it, doesn't it, from just following rules to a kind of moral duty to the community.
Okay, so segment 1 gave us the clear call for impartial, strict enforcement free from interference. Segment 2 gives us the hard data showing exactly what needs to change and when. So now we get to segment 3, this idea of shared responsibility, and also the tools the government plans to use to support this new culture of enforcement.
Right. And this is where the traffic chief, Assistant Commissioner Mahendra Singh, kind of echoes the broader theme. He stated, road safety is everyone's business. And his reminder that 108 lives have already been lost just this year so far. It's a pretty stark reinforcement that this isn't just about drivers and police. It involves everyone.
Indeed. And PM Phillips explicitly broadened that circle of responsibility too, didn't he? He called on pedestrians, cyclists, really everyone using the roads to be extremely vigilant. Every death, he said, is a painful reminder.
And that collective pain, presumably, is what's driving the investment side of this. The government is committing resources, they say, to back up this enforcement mandate. They talked about continued investment in expanding enforcement capacity, improving road infrastructure, too, and importantly, expanding the Smart City program.
The Smart City program. Let's connect that back to where we started, the political meddling. If the problem often comes down to human interaction, where influence can creep in, then maybe technology can act as a shield. How does expanding smart tech actually help tackle that enforcement weakness, Phillips pointed out?
Well, that seems to be the crucial link they're making. The Minister of Home Affairs, On Edge Walron, she detailed plans that really focus on exactly that. They're planning to expand the use of smart technology cameras, sensors, maybe AI, to detect traffic violations in real time. Now, this is key because automated detection takes human discretion out of that initial step the moment the violation occurs. Think about it. If a camera logs you speeding and the ticket is generated automatically based on that objective data, there's no officer on the roadside to try and hand a phone to. There's no official you can easily call to try and meddle. The system, in theory, becomes much more objective, maybe even immune to that kind of influence, which directly supports the PM's zero-tolerance stance.
That's a fascinating angle, using tech almost as an anti-corruption tool to ensure fairness. What else did the ministry mention they're focusing on for the upcoming year?
Well, beyond the tech side, there's a heavy focus on prevention. Things like strengthening driver education programs, providing continuous training, especially for people driving commercial vehicles or public transport, those with, a greater responsibility for passengers. They're also working with the Ministry of Education, trying to improve road safety education right from school age, recognizing that changing the culture really has to start young with the next generation of drivers and pedestrians.
In that theme for 2025, careful driving, save lives. It really hammers home that shift, doesn't it? Moving beyond just awareness to actively trying to change those deeply ingrained attitudes and behaviors, especially around that dangerous Sunday 6 p.m. to midnight window.
Exactly. And the final message, directed back at both the police and the public, it sort of reinforces the foundation the PM laid out. Officers are told, act with fairness, but also firmness. Maintain your integrity. And citizens get that reminder that following the law isn't weakness, it's a responsibility. The quote was, "There is no shame in obeying the law."
So wrapping this all up for you, our listener, what we've seen today is that truly effective road safety seems to depend on two things happening at once. On one hand, you need political leaders demonstrating really clear institutional accountability, stopping the interference, empowering the police to do their jobs without fear or favor.
Right. And on the other hand, you need all of us as individual road users to take immediate responsibility for changing those specific deadly behaviors the data screams about, especially things like impaired driving and speeding during those peak risk evening hours.
Yeah, this deep dive really shows that ensuring public safety isn't just fought on the streets, is it? It's often a battle waged just as fiercely in the corridors of power. That refusal to take a phone call can be just as impactful, maybe even more so, than an officer writing a ticket.
It's a crucial connection to make. The leadership sets the tone for everything else.
Okay, so here's a final thought for you to take away and maybe chew on. We know the data points to Sunday evenings, 6 p.m. to midnight, as the deadliest time. We also have the Prime Minister's commitment to zero interference. So what specific, highly visible enforcement strategy, maybe leveraging that smart technology we talked about, perhaps automated speed cameras or sobriety checkpoints, focused only on known Sunday night trouble spots, what could be deployed to make the biggest, most immediate impact on that specific behavioral window? And in doing so, demonstrate that this new impartial enforcement policy has real teeth, something to think about. Until next time on The Deep Dive.